everybody, this is Greg Petix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the Petixonian Institute of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Epic Illustrated number 10 from February 1982. We start off with this really nice John Bolton painted cover illustrating the first chapter of Marada the She-Wolf, which we will soon see. Let's crack this open, shall we? Contents page. Another Bill Willingham Dungeons & Dragons adventure. Someday I'm going to make a whole video about the whole story here. And the overview has an interesting little tidbit. Weird World Chapter 2 isn't in this issue. I guess there was a death in someone's family and something got lost in the mail. I feel bad for those people, but I am glad that Weird World isn't in this issue because I really don't like that series so far. But on top of that, extra good news, because it was in this issue, they had to move up some things that were slated for like 2 issues away. And this is the result. The first chapter of Rick Veitch's Abraxas and the Earthman. So I fucking love Rick Veitch. Just amazing cartoonist, great writer, great artist. Almost everything that guy's ever done, I love. And this is no exception. Just some really twisted, weird, surreal shit. It starts off with this poem. It's a song of the humpback whale. And in this, we find out that there was a whale planet. And the whales colonized the galaxy. They populated all the planets. But the whales that landed on Earth, I guess the gravity here is heavier than all the other planets they went to. So all the whales, that we know of, they're from this whale planet, but they're stuck in the ocean. They can't get out because of the gravity. So they also have this prophecy that when a man from Earth journeys to the whale planet and meets Abraxas, we will be delivered from the zones of the sea. And this is how it sets up the whole story here. Look at this just beautiful graphic design here. This logo, Rick Veitch with his airbrush. He has some photo collage stuff behind the lettering. He's such a good craftsman. He's just so good at every aspect of comic production. Even his lettering, it's flawless. So here we got Chapter 1, Press Gang. And we're on Earth. We see submarine. And we see this guy, John Isaac. He's a biologist. And he's been recording the songs of whales. And the more he listens to it, he realizes that, it's a cohesive language. These whales these aren't just like mindless songs. They're speaking to each other. So they're implying they're intelligent. The commander of the sub, Commander Falco, this guy back here, he's just like, this bullshit. He just says, it just sounds like a bunch of stupidity to me, these moaning whales. So all of a sudden the klaxon sounds in the submarine and they're under attack. And when the cameras look outside, they see this thing. It's just, I don't know what, it's like some giant squid, but it's been bioengineered. And it looks like it has a log cabin glued to his head and all this weird repulsive shit. It's just crazy, and it's crushing the sub in its tentacles. Look at this beautiful Rick Veitch airbrush coloring. This is so good. And then he crushes the submarine, cracks it open like a sardine can. And it expels all of the seamen into the ocean to their deaths, apparently. But the weird ship that looks like an octopus, it reels in John Isaac. And Isaac grabs Falco by the ankle and pulls him in too. So they get inside the ship and there's oxygen in there. They're safe temporarily. And we see this guy. He's the first mate of this ship. His name is Mr. Staub. And he kind of gaffs him in with his hook. He's the one who pulled him in. And then they meet Captain Rotwang, the commander of this craft. And just crazy looking guy. This looks like a weird baboon dude, but repulsive. I don't even know what this is supposed to be here. Some blood clot. He's got a missing leg. Just has raw bone where his leg should be. And apparently he was attacked by a whale at some point. So as we're going to see, this is kind of a homage to Moby Dick, this whole comic. So it turns out that they basically, these guys are being shanghaied. They rescued them from their deaths, pretty much just so they could work on the ship. They're impressed into service. So the spaceship flies into the sky, flies out into outer space, and we see the mothership. Look at this crazy thing. It's like, it looks like a giant mutant tree with all this kind of disgusting, I don't know, it looks like a heart valve or something. So, yeah, we can just see this Rick Veitch, just so visually imaginative, like just the crazy technology he draws, and this like kind of bio ship. So he hands the two guys over to the Zilexu surgeons. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And they look like these giant praying mantises. And they grab the guys, they bite them, and push venom into their veins. And this venom basically it leads to them tripping balls. It's a hallucinogenic venom. And I love this, like, just great psychedelic art here. More great psychedelic art here. And when Isaac wakes up from his trip, the very last panel, they're ripping his skin off. They're peeling his humanity away. And that's how the episode ends. So I can't wait to read the next chapter. Oh, by the way, look at this great panel. It's from his point of view with the perspective, and it's just really good. Good art. Okay, we got the book for you again. Who cares? Here we have a little 2-page story called Bird. I have to look up this guy's name. He's got a really weird first name. It's Stedroy Cleghorn. That sounds like a pirate's name. And this is just one of those weird little heavy metal epic type strips, like that make you scratch your head and reach for your joint again. It's just this bird, and he transforms into the spaceship. You see kind of like camera work. It zooms in, zooms back out, and it's a spaceship. That's it. Art's not bad, though. Pretty nice. But never heard of this guy before or since. So who knows what happened to... I already forgot how to say his first name. Stedman? I don't know. Here we got Liaison. It's another one of those like kind of very illustrated prosy stories. And it's written by Roger McKenzie, the mainstream Marvel superhero writer, and drawn by Jeff Easley. Painted, I should say, by Jeff Easley. And it's pretty nice art. Jeff Easley went on to be a pretty popular fantasy, book cover artist. But this is what I think it said. This is his first color work. He had some stuff published here and there, but I like this page, this panel right here. This woman's, she's getting blown up, and she's just turned into tatters. So this is it's a sci-fi story, kind of like in one of those futures where the corporations run everything. Like, you've heard it all before. Earth is at war with this alien race, and the war is so profitable that Earth cannot afford to let anything get in the way of the war continuing. So this woman was actually like a rebel who's like an anti-war person. So they clone her and bring her back to life for some elaborate ploy, because they want to keep the war going, but they also want to use her as like a pawn against the aliens. It wouldn't stop the war, but it would cheese them off. Yeah, pretty decent art. You can tell he's kind of young, though. Some of the faces are a little wonky. And, yeah, I'm not going to get into the story too much. It's not bad. It was interesting, Here we have the first appearance in Epic of Ken Macklin and his character Dr. Watchtop. And Ken Macklin was drawing for fanzines all in the late 70s, early 80s. And he was always in like fantasy type comics and fanzines, but he always drew these funny animals. I don't think he has a comic where he doesn't draw like this. He just loved funny animal stuff. But it always had a very serious sci-fi bent to it, like a hard SF bent. And it's kind of weird because, he draws these goofy faces, but everything, all the technology is drawn impeccably, like really well. He's also really good with colors. These are all watercolors. Always had a good color sense, Ken Macklin. So in this comic, this young student from the university shows up to visit Dr. Watchtop. Or at least that's what Dr. Watchtop thinks. He doesn't really know who this guy is. He assumes he's from the university. And he's a blowhard. He just starts going in about, like, oh, I've come up with this new theory that could unlink time travel. This new theory I have could be the thing that leads to, in a few years, I could solve the time travel problem. The kid's trying to interrupt him, and, he's a blowhard, so he just keeps talking over him. Really, really full of himself, But then finally the kid gets a word in, and he says, yeah, I know all about this theory, Professor. I'm from the future. I'm from 400 years in the future, and your notes that you kept, that's what allowed us in the future to figure out time travel. And I just wanted to come back in time to thank you. And now he starts going off. And while he's spewing words, Dr. Watchtop was thinking, with my notes, that I'm not to break the barrier to time travel in my lifetime? So he says, I think perhaps I shall stop keeping notes. And the guy from the future totally fades away because, now there won't be any time travel because he decided not to keep notes, which will unlock the key. He's kind of a very full of himself guy. Here we have the last chapter of Children of the Stars by Charles Vess. As we saw last time, Bronwyn is at the Sea of Souls, and she's trying to find the soul gem, or the soul pebble of Lord Nizenthor. He's the evil Dark Lord, Demon Lord, who has poisoned her brother. And only by destroying Nizenthor can she save her brother's life. So she's on the beach, and we have this nice little interlude where she sees this old woman on the beach who tells her that basically most of her life she's been searching for her husband's soul pebble on this beach. Because the old ones, the gods in this universe, told her, if you can find his soul stone, he'll be returned to you. But she's even thinking to herself, even if I do find the rock, he's going to be strong and young. Look at me, he won't even recognize me. I'm an old lady now. So it's kind of like this sad little interlude. And so she walks off, Bronwyn, our heroine. And she finds it. She finds Nizenthor's soul gem. And she goes to the realm of the demon lords to confront Nizenthor and his two brothers. Kind of like this weird door here on his palace. Interesting design. So she shows up and tells the flunkies, like, take me to your leader. So they take her to see Nizenthor and his brothers, and she smashes the stone, and it makes the whole castle collapse and crash around them. It also results in Nizenthor he's left a drooling, mindless idiot. His brain's wiped out, basically. So she finishes him off with a sword and returns to her home. And her brother's all good now. Since Nizenthor's dead, his magical poison doesn't work anymore. So it's a nice happy ending, and the old ones look down and smile on this nice event. I gotta say, this third chapter isn't nearly as good as the first two. I don't know if Charles Vess had a rush the art, if he ran out of time. Not nearly as well done. And but also Charles Vess was pretty young. This is pretty early in his career, so he's not the Charles Vess that we all know and love at this point. Every now and then, though, he's got some amazing shit, but this one, not as good as the first two. But this makes up for it in spades. Another appearance from Charlie, Flightus Interruptus by Arthur Suydam. And man, I love this shit. So Charlie is flying around on this crazy dirigible airship. And this airship is basically powered by these little tit things. I like how they just all make these little sounds, peep, peep, poop, and they pull the craft along. So we see Charlie in his little cockpit, and he just has all these goofy details. Like there's one of those old-timey honky horns and like a raccoon tail, like from some 1920s thing. And just the art is so beautiful. The painted colors, just lush and really nice stuff. So Charlie realizes he's got no food in his locker. He's getting hungry. So he starts eating the tit things, the tit beings. He gorges himself on them. So there's only one left. He totally makes a pig of himself. And this one little one is straining to pull the whole ship. Peep. It's panting. And then Charlie starts whipping it to make it go faster. But, yeah, he whips a little too much. And this last little tit being gives up the ghost. And falls back on the plane, splat. It's dead. So now it's got no power. The dirigible starts falling out of the sky. And Charlie's like, oh, fuck. So many great panels. I love this panel right here, this explosion even. It's just an explosion, but it's so well drawn and colored. All of these panels, look at them, just like fully painted. Each one's like a nice little painting. So after the crash, we see Charlie. He looks like a human pincushion. He's got like 50 things piercing his body. I guess it's the structure of the craft. But as we've seen before, Charlie is very resilient. Charlie, not much can stop him. He gets insane injuries and he pops back to life. So he's walking along. He's searching for transportation. Oh, I love this panel right here. I never realized how much like Sam Keith probably saw this guy as a young guy and used it for the Max. There's a lot of Max type stuff in here. So he finds this big giant bat, and he kind of convinces the bat to become his new transportation device, his new mode of travel. And yeah, this beautiful page. This could be a poster. So nice. So he's riding around on the bat, but you know the bat's a dumb bat. It's not trained to be like a horse. So as soon as he sees an insect fly by, this giant locust, he just totally zings off of his path. Tries to eat it, and he's chasing it around. And the locust makes some crazy quick maneuver right near the ground, and the bat totally crashes in the ground. And Charlie walks off, all bummed. He's fucked over again. He kind of deserves it, though. Charlie's an asshole. So here we have part 2 of the portfolio visions. The first one was black and white a few issues ago, and now we have a color one. So we just get to see a lot of nice art. Sorry about this, my magazine's falling apart. If anyone has an extra issue of Epic number 10, please send it to the address in the information box. So we got Howard Chaykin's Cody Starbuck. We got underground comic artist John Pound. Some beautiful stuff here. I love that. I would love to read a comic about these guys. There's a lion dude. Jeff Jones, Epic contributor Mike Science. I remember seeing ads for this as a kid. I thought this was an interesting concept. Josh Kirby did this portfolio called Voyage of the Aya Guy. And the conceit of this was that a Renaissance painter is transported to this crazy alien sci-fi world. And he's just painting what he sees in this like high Renaissance style. So, and it tells a story. Apparently all 6 plates, it's kind of tells you a story about this world. Oh, I love this one. Bernie Wrightson from his Apparitions portfolio. That is just like every 13-year-old boy's greatest piece of art. It's so good. I'm 55 and I still love this shit. Mike Kaluta. We got the Irish artist Jim Fitzpatrick. The guy always puts in Celtic designs into his fantasy work. And Frank Brenner. We got Media View. Who cares? And here we go, the first chapter of Marada the She-Wolf, written and created by Chris Claremont with art by John Bolton. Just some beautiful cartooning here by Bolton. Look at how well that horse is drawn. That's really just fine illustration. Marada the She-Wolf was originally supposed to be a Red Sonja story, but for some period in the early 80s, Marvel lost the rights to Red Sonja, so they reworked the story into this new character. And that's how Marada the She-Wolf was born. There was a Marada the She-Wolf story before this. It appeared in Bizarre Adventures by Chris Claremont and John Bolton. So this is the second Marada the She-Wolf story. So we see this this caravan going through the desert. They're Parthian mercenaries. And all of a sudden they get attacked. And these guys come out of nowhere and just massacre these Parthians. Make short work of them. The leader of the Parthians here, Donal, I think his name is. And there's a carriage that they were really protecting. And I think he's looking for, he thinks that, they've kidnapped someone is in there. And the last guy standing, I guess he had orders like, hey, if everything falls to shit, you got to kill this person. So he's running into the tent with that knife drawn. So Donal kills him before he can do it. He throws a knife into his chest. And when he opens up this little carriage, he sees, to his shock, his old friend Marada, the She-Wolf. This guy knows Marada. He's known her for years. But Marada is very different right now. She's all meek, and he knows Marada for years as this kick-ass warrior woman who he's fought beside many times in many battles. And is like this hard-drinking, awesome, kick-ass lady. But all of a sudden, she's different. He's like, what the hell's going on? By the way, that's a beautiful face there, the way it's drawn. Really nice. So he grabs Marada, and he takes her to his home off the coast of England. And we see his mother, Donal's mother, Rhiannon. She's the mistress of the arts arcane. She's also the ruler of the province. She's a witchy woman. And they let Marada rest after, her ordeal. And Marada says, can I leave? Am I a guest or am I trapped here? And he wants to shake her out of her, whatever's going on with her. So let's skip forward. And he says, you can get out of here if you can disarm me in combat, single combat. He throws the sword at her. She fumbles it. And so obviously, like, Marada's a completely different person. This is not the Marada, the She-Wolf he knows. He disarms her pretty quickly. She forgot how to fight, it seems. And she even says, I am yours, my lord, to do with as you will. And that is definitely not how Marada normally is. So then we cut away back to Damascus, and we are introduced to this evil wizard. And what's his name? Simeon Karishner. And him and his little minion are torturing this Roman guy who helped the Marada escape. But he didn't escape himself, so they captured him and are torturing him so he'll talk and give him some information. But this guy's not talking. So then he kind of creates / summons this, I don't know, succubus. And I don't know if I haven't read the second chapter yet, so I don't know if this is supposed to be a doppelganger of Marada or just some evil witch, demon woman. But man, look at that. That's a nice face. So then we cut back to Britain. Marada wakes up screaming from a nightmare. Everyone runs in. And then the screaming woke up, what's her name? This is Donal's daughter, Rhiannon's granddaughter, Arianrod. And she seems to be a very, sweet, caring young woman, girl. And they say, hey, maybe you could stay with Marada. She's really stressed out, And over the course of the night, they become fast friends. Very quickly, they bond. And over the next few days, while Marada's, trying to get her head together, they become really close. Their friendship really deepens. So finally, Marada tells Donal what happened. So while she was in Damascus, she was leading a caravan on the Silk Road. After a long day of work, she was unwinding at a tavern with her fellow warriors. Everyone's getting drunk. She's getting drunk. She's dancing on the tables, having a great time. But then this one guy drugs her ale. And he carries her away and brings her to that evil wizard guy, Simeon. And Simeon summons this demon from hell. She's chained up. And the demon overpowers her and rapes her. So she tells Donnell, this is the first time in her life where she couldn't fight her way out of a problem. She was so good at fighting, nobody could ever overpower her. It's never happened. But this ordeal of her being defenseless and unable to fight off this aggressor, and she's raped. It's shattered her. And so that's where we end at the end of this first chapter. Marada's really messed up. It doesn't ring true to me, I gotta say, though. From what I've read that first Marada story, she really is kind of like a female Conan. She's kick-ass. It just seems like she was too strong and resilient to be broken like this. She's really broken. I mean, she forgot how to fight, for God's sakes. She doesn't even all of her skills are gone. So maybe we'll find out another sorcerous reason why she's changed too. So let's get back to where we were. I believe this is where we left off. Yes. So here we have another nice little short story from Pepe Moreno. This guy really grows on me. I would love a nice little collection of all his short stories. They're all pretty good, and God, his art's amazing. So this story is called The Weapon, and it's World War I, the horrible trench warfare. People are lobbing mustard gas on each other. Every week it's a new crazy poison gas. So this English soldier goes out and he goes into a cloud of gas. And it kind of makes him knock out for a second, and then he wakes up. And he's in this beautiful, candy-colored, psychedelic world. And it's just this paradise. He's drinking, purple water. And he's happy and at peace. The war is just wiped away. And then he sees a German soldier. But, because they're in this beautiful world, they just totally greet each other and, they don't even think about fighting each other. They're like, hey, buddy, nice meeting you. And the German guy leaves. And the English guy is just swimming, enjoying life, loving it. Takes a little nap under the nice warm sun. But then when he wakes up, it was all like a dream. He basically was hallucinating. And these guys are all like, shut up about your crazy vision, you nut. That bullet creased your skull. It's the bullet talking. But then we see the German commanders, and they say, we were fortunate, only one man infected. It could have been many. Then it's settled, the formula will be destroyed. The danger of the new weapon affecting our own troops is far too great. So basically it's implying that the Germans in World War I created LSD gas, made everyone all peaceful and lovey-dovey, and that's not good for war. Now we got one more story. This is really nice. We got a manga artist, Kaze Shinobu, and it's called Heart and Steel. I think he just has that typical, manga style, very pedestrian. Good stuff, though. And, but look at how great this technology is drawn. You see his robot brain. Really nice. I love the colors in this. Really deep, rich colors. So this is almost like a Zen koan, this one. We have this robot who yearns to be a human being and to know what it's like to be human. And he sees this woman who's asleep, and she's dreaming. So he figures if he lays down next to her, beside her, maybe he can enter her dream and thus be more human. So it's kind of like in his head, he's entering her dream. And I don't know what's going on here, but this is some cool, crazy shit. His brain is robot brains exploding out of his head in a very artfully designed way. And so it has a very zen ending. He says, the robot says, I no longer know whether I am a robot who wishes to become human or a woman who is dreaming she is a robot. I love the colors on this last page, that airbrush blue. It's just all that negative space. That's a really nice page. So that's it for epic number 10. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. And unfortunately, I have a feeling next issue we're going to have to read that Weird World chapter eventually. We're going to have to suck it down. But until then, thanks for watching. And hopefully I'll see you next time at the Petixonian Institute of Comic Book Studies.